This month's, am I here? Am I there? All right. This month's science of mine, the divine feminine. When I discovered religious science a long time ago, when my beloved Judy brought me into the front doors of religious science, at some point when I got my footing, I loved discovering this. I was raised in fundamentalist Christianity in the Baptist world, and the Baptist world has a very patriarchal kind of teaching. And of course we know there's a place for the divine masculine but I think my soul, my being, was always craving the place of the feminine within all of that. I used to kind of have Catholic envy growing up because my Catholic friends had Mary, you know what I'm saying? The old guys kind of wore me out, you know what I mean? The old guys with the beards and stuff. They kind of wore me out a little bit. So Mary, and what they called the Mariam teachings. I've immersed myself in a lot of those, and not much in the Bible about that. That's some stuff that kind of came out on the peripheral of things, but it's so beautiful. And the iconography of her, she is so sweet, and with the open hands and everything. And then later on, in the Eastern traditions with Kuan Yin and all of that, it's just a part of me. So it's interesting that we all have our own way of seeing God, which is so beautiful. The God that speaks to us, the God that we yearn for, the God that we're open to. And God is an energy force, God is a power. And so, I think at least most of us, on this physical plane that we live in, we have to kind of dress it up a little bit, because maybe our thinking's a little bit limited. And for me, God is always feminine, So when I read things like, they'll say, God, 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 he, I always drop in she, because that really works for me. So because of that, what's interesting about our teaching is in New Thought, metaphysics, religious science, is this idea of creation. We talk about creation all the time because creation is the formula, Whether we are trying to overcome a fear or an illness or poverty or destruction of some way or conflict. We say, okay, I want to move out of this. I want to go into peace. I want to go into abundance. I want to go into joy. And so New Thought, religious science says, then we have to create it. And we have to understand that creative formula, that idea. And so throughout our teachings, there's all kinds of beautiful, beautiful writings and ideas and philosophies and charts and even pictures that get us into creativity. And so, for me, in going through all that, because I think that I'm really kind of a simple person. I'm very much a visual person. If you give me something visual, I can get it. And so I was working with some Charles Fillmore material a long time ago, and going through his definitions, which I love, his metaphysical definitions. And I think it was around Christmas season a long time ago, and I was looking at the whole Christmas narrative and wanting to look at the metaphysics of that story, the metaphor, the metaphysics of meaning. And Charles Fillmore, he gave a metaphysical definition of Mary, the mother of Jesus. And he said that Mary, what she means metaphysically in that story, is completely committed to bringing to term and delivering the expression. I get it. A pregnant woman's all in, man. There's no getting out. I've talked to, I haven't been pregnant, at least in this lifetime. But anyway, I look like it, but at least for women who are pregnant, this is going to end. I've had this for a while, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, I've talked to pregnant women, and a lot of them have said this. When the water breaks, it's like, man, I don't want to do this. Oh my God, I just want to go to Starbucks, and but no, that's it. You're in. time, got to go, right? And if you think about pregnancy, the way that women in this physical plane, you guys who are, even if you haven't had children, the fact that your bodies run on this reproductive cycle is so beautiful, because it has a commitment to it. It has a, this is what it is. Now what does that look like? I want you to think. Now let's drill down into the Mary story just a little bit. Now we take it metaphorically and metaphysically, but let's put it in the context. Jewish woman in that particular time, a couple thousand years ago, deep Jewish traditions, family, matriarch, patriarch, all that kind of stuff, right? Let's think about this. Mary comes home one day to her mom. Hey, Mom, got some news for you. What's up, Mary, my beloved daughter? I'm expecting. No, you see, you're not married. That can't happen. Well, I am. What? Oh, my God. What, who is it the guy down at the fish market? I never liked him. No, it's even worse, Mom. This angel, this expression of the Holy Spirit came upon me, and I'm impregnated. Really, if your kid came home and said that. Oh, my God, not only is she pregnant, we got a mental health issue. Oh, my God, right? Charles Fillmore says, no, she's in. Now, we have all had experiences like that, every one of you, where you have decided something has come up for you, that spark, that divine urge that we call it in metaphysics, where you are going to, make a move, change jobs, get involved in something, leave something, go to something, right? And you know it in your heart. We've all been there. And those people who love us, see, Mary's mom loves her, right? We all got those people who love us, and we say one day, I'm going to do this, and they look at us and go, oh my God, what are you doing? Now for me, it's happened a number of times in my life, but for me, it was like I was working for Solano County. I worked in juvenile corrections as a group counselor, Solano County, Bay Area County, making good money, retirement, all that kind of stuff on the line. I've been there about 20 years, and I was done. I'd been burned out for 5. I'd been to counseling. I'd been to some spiritual counseling. I did my work. And basically what was coming up for me, opportunity for something. That's what burnout is. It means you're done, man. Move on, right? And so didn't know what to do. And so in the meantime, I'm involved in religious science. I'm taking all kinds of classes. I got in the ministerial stuff mainly because of me. I just wanted to grow and everything. And then, it's a long story, but long story short, I decided I was going to go into the ministry full time. So I called my dad, who was living in Arizona at the time. First of all, my dad is a deeply religious Baptist person. His son is in religious science, right? I mean, that's bad enough, okay? I already crossed that bridge, okay? And he was convinced I was in a cult and all this other. Anyway, got past all that. Oh, I mean, I did. He didn't. But anyway, so I call him up one day. And hey, what's going on? What's up? So I decide, I want to live. I want to stand in my truth. I want to live in my truth. I want to speak my truth. And so I say, well, I'm gonna change jobs. I'm going to leave where I'm at, and I'm going to go into the ministry. Ministry of what? Well, religious science. That's what I'm involved in. They even have ministers? Yeah, Dad, they do. I'm going to go be one. Do they get paid for that? Now, my dad's been in Baptist churches forever, and they pay their ministers. He said, do they get, in religious science, they get paid for that? No, man, we're just leading a cult. We just, Then the next thing was, he said, Andy, you're too young to retire. I said, I'm not retiring. I am changing vocations. Why would you do that, man? I know you got benefits, you got retirement, why? Charles Fillmore says, because you're all in. You're all in. Because This is what's important about Mary. She represents the vessel that brings it into, and listen to this, bringing to term and delivering. That's what pregnancy is. You bring it to term, the law of gestation, and you deliver it. How many great ideas do we have? How many things come our ways? How many things inspire us? How many things, but we do not become the receptor of the divine urge. We don't take the seed that is going to grow into something. We have to receive it. We have to give it sanction. And she does. She gives it sanction. She carries it to term. And then she delivers it. Today, I'm here to talk about the soul. And one of the interesting things, if you want to get really wonky and theological, one of the questions that you would have as a student of spirituality is, what is the soul? Is it masculine or is it feminine? Ernest Holmes talks about the fact, he calls the soul he says the soul is the medium of creation. In a lot of other language, but to parse that out. So for me, and I'm not going to stand here and say this is absolute in terms of theological ideas, but for me I think of the soul as being feminine. And so I have done a lot of poking around in spiritual ideas and in philosophy, and the Greeks believed that the soul was feminine. And what's really interesting is that the Kabbalah mysticism that comes down to us from the ages, they don't necessarily claim it's feminine, but they have a quote in Kabbalah that says, "They who climb the spiritual ladder, alternate between the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine aspects of the soul." Because between the Kabbalah and the Greeks, they both believe in this. You can find statements in both of them that sound like this: balancing the feminine and the masculine qualities and the energies is a prerequisite of spiritual evolution and growth. In the biblical narrative, Mary brings forth the Christ. Our expression. If you want to go join the circus, and that's your passion, that is your Christ. If you want to go into ministry, and that's your passion, that is the Christ. If you want to sit down before a canvas and paint a painting, or play the piano, or whatever you do, that is the Christ. How many years do you think this guy's been playing a piano? Do you think you could take a piano away from him with dynamite? No. He go pick up the pieces. He's all in. The soul is all in. Emma Curtis Hopkins, who wrote a great book called Practical Mysticism, is considered in our world to be one of the authorities on the soul. And she had a term called courting the soul. I love that. That's an old-fashioned term, like when two lovers who want to eventually become married and they court each other. They speak to each other. They date each other. They spend time with each other. Years ago, when I was in college, I was taking an anthropology class, and I've always been very much drawn to Native American mysticism and ideas, and even more so later in life, since I have done what I've done. And the Inuit people, or some people call them the Eskimos, have extraordinary cultures and nomadic cultures. I mean, they're all they're all buttoned down nowadays. They live in communities, but once upon a time they were nomadic. And we think of the igloos and we think of the dog sleds and all that stuff. And what's known of them in terms of film footage is this old black and white grainy kinds of stuff of them running around up there, because it was so hard to access their world. Lived in the most extreme place in the world you could live and survive. And not only did they live and survive, but they brought forward a gorgeous culture, rich in spirituality, rich in connection, rich in community. And they lived this perilous life. Well, in the 60s, the early 60s, there was a Scandinavian group of filmmakers who actually put together a film of them, and it's in full color, and it's them, a group going through the seasons. And I don't know how much of it is staged or whatever, but this family is living. It's about 3 families in a small band, and they're nomadic, and they're living in that world. And it starts out kind of in the spring and summer, and the Arctic is beautiful. The foxes are running around, and there's insects, and there's the grasses, and there's the caribou, and there's all that going on. But so they kind of go through the seasons. Then they come into winter, and there's a scene of an igloo, which is an amazing structure. But, igloos are not permanent. It's not like, my granddad built this igloo. We've been here for, that's not the way it is, man. I mean, you build an igloo. It's a gorgeous piece of architecture and functional, but you're only there for a short time. So the camera comes in on this igloo, and you're just, even as a movie, and back then, when I was going to college, it wasn't like it was video and stuff. It was a movie on a screen in a room, and kind of grainy, but it was gorgeous. It was color, and even in that format, my breath was taken away by the vastness of it. Little igloo sitting there, in this just frozen, just as far as you can see, every horizon just out there. And the wind is galing, and the dogs are dug in under the snow outside, and it's just howling and howling and howling. And they block their entrance from the inside. And so you see it. Next thing you know, they're in there, and there's a woman, and she's tending the seal oil lamp, which always has a bit of flame on it. That's like the center of her world. She cooks on it. She heats with it. She keeps that going 24 hours a day. That's her job, and she works with it, and she's always there, and she's adding the fat that keeps it going. And off in the corner over here, in their little fur outfits, are these like 2 or 3 little kids, gorgeous little faces, shining dark eyes looking out. The wind is howling. They live in this precarious place. Life seems so fragile. And she's sitting there, and she's singing in a very low voice. Just sings and sings and sings. And the movie had subtitles on it. It was an ancient song. Her mother, her grandmother, her whatever has come down. And after a while, I didn't even watch the words. I was just like. And the children are just looking at her, and they're huddled down. And she sings, and she sings, and she sings, and she sings. And even sitting in that classroom, I felt it touching something deep inside of me. And I was really kind of at war with religion and God at that time. And I didn't want to admit this, but there was something being touched by me, by this woman. And those children sat, and you could see on the expressions of their faces, they were okay. We're going to be okay. There was a warmth. There was something that transcended the howling and the fragility of life. And she sang, and she sang, and she sang, and she just sang and sang and sang. I went to a conference several years ago. It was a 1-week thing. You had to throw your name in the hat to even go to the thing for ministers. And Kathy Ann Lewis in Seattle, she had it, and then we went up to Washington. And Reverend Edward, who's now the head of CSL, he was actually one of the presenters. And it was a little conference on the creativity for ministry. And her whole week, she and Reverend Ed, or Dr. Edward, they were, it was just a week on the soul. And her whole thing, she's a Emma Curtis Hopkins scholar. I think he is too. And just like that, okay, what's the language of the soul? Start out that way. Okay, we got to court the soul. What's the language of the soul? What talks to the soul? And what she came up with was this idea that the soul has lived, it is that part of us that has lived eternally. Now, whatever your beliefs are, if you believe in reincarnation, if you believe we come from other places, it has lived eternally. It's seen it all. It's been through it all. It's been through it all. And so it's laying there inside of us. And there's two parts of us. There's a part of us that is the material part of us. And then there's a part of us, the ethereal part of us, the deeply spiritual part of us, the truth of us. Ernest Holmes said there is a truth behind reality. Reality with a small r, reality with a capital R, two realities. The soul is that reality. It has been around. The soul knows that it's going to be okay. So when that woman was in that igloo singing to those kids and to herself, she was singing to the soul. And the soul was radiating out. Her song came from her soul and touched the souls of her children. We're going to be okay. Because this ain't the truth of us. And we're going to be okay. Her job, if we go back to the Mary idea, is her job is to deliver them to adulthood. And she is going to do that. And she's going to do it with her song. When I was up in Washington, I realized something that week that was profound for me. Something that had been rattling around inside of me and I didn't understand it. I was raised a Baptist, and in Baptist churches there is a rich tradition of music. I mean, you got the King James Version and you got the hymnal. And that hymnal, you don't mess with the hymnal. And a lot of those songs, the content of them, I don't believe in what they say. But to sit in the midst of those songs, sometimes in a Baptist church, is powerful. I want to talk about one particular song. And it is a song called "It Is Well With My Soul." And it was written by Horatio and Anna Spafford. And the song has quite a history to it, how it even came to be. And I got to tell you, except for the chorus, the song is horrible. It gets into the darkest, nastiest part of Christianity. Don't even, if you go online, don't look at that stuff. Okay, I mean, the verses are just horrendous, right? Okay. But the chorus is, "It is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well with my soul." Now, from the ages of, I was born in 1957, which means by the time 1970 came along, I was 13 years old. And by the time 1970 came along, I was kind of at a crisis in my life early on because of the stuff, Vietnam, revolution, Black Panthers, peace movement, raised by a generation of World War II people, I don't know when Kent State happened. All this stuff was going on. All of a sudden, people are growing their hair long. People are smoking marijuana. I going to church didn't do anything for me. There was a sexual revolution. I was just like on total overload, man. I just like, I like, what's going on? I was at odds with my parents because I was getting involved in pop culture. They were World War II people. All this stuff was happening. Bob Dylan, really? Perry Como gave way to the Beatles, and worse, the Rolling Stones. And so, and I was caught up in all this. And I was already, by the time I was 13, I was experimenting with smoking cigarettes and maybe some other things. And, and I was, I got my hormones going, and the culture was like inviting me into possibly the sexual expression. That freaked me out, all this stuff. And I remember in the Baptist churches, sometimes the evening services, there would be what they called a hymnal service. And that meant, because on Sunday you went twice, man. You went during the day, and then you went home and had lunch and hung out for a while. Then you came back at night, and the minister got you all over again, right? And so it's like, oh my God, Sundays were rough. But they'd say, oh, in a couple weeks there's going to be a hymnal service. Oh my God, thank you, God. I don't have to listen to that guy anymore, Do you see the irony here at all? Okay. Takes you guys a while, Okay. Hated those ministers. Became one. Okay. All right. So I remember sitting and singing a song in a Baptist church is serious. I mean, the song leaders in Baptist churches, they were very often choir directors. They were musicians. They were into it, right? And so when they would sing, "It Is Well With My Soul," and they always seemed to sing that one, they would get into this chorus with rounds. They would leave the verse with rounds and rounds and rounds. And so pretty soon as a kid, I'm just, I'm sitting there. It is well with my soul. It is well. And pretty soon this took on an energy that, I became a big goosebump just sitting there, just coming over me. These people, this community, all these people I grew up with, I knew all the families, all the people. It is well. And they were doing it in rounds. This would go on forever and ever. This is one of those songs they would just sing over and over again. The piano player just keep playing it and playing it. And when I was in Washington, and about the middle of the week, because she talked about the fact that the soul wants us to know that we are a team with her. We are committed. We will take to term, and we will deliver. And what she told us, she said where this comes from is that part of the world in the Mediterranean, the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Greeks, the ancient Jews, who stand watch over the dead while the soul starts to leave the body. And what are they doing? They're telling the soul, you're going to be okay. What a great journey you're going to be on. What this life has been. How much you are loved. We love you. Look at what you've done. You're moving on to the next level. Now, the point of Kathy Ann Lewis is, in our tradition, this is what we have to be doing throughout our lifetime. I'm going to a new job. Okay, you're going to be okay. I love you. You're loved. God is with you. You're prepared for this. This is what you're carrying forward. I'm going to step in and become a caregiver, and I don't know if I'm going to do that. And it's like, it is well with your soul, It is well with your soul. You're going to do it. Oh my God. I'm reading a book right now by Don Jose Ruiz. And he talks about the power of the chants and the songs and the music in our spiritual traditions. He talks about the Gregorian chants, the ancient Jewish chants, the Catholic chants, the Buddhist chants, the Hindu chants, the Oms. that resonate right down into our soul. Today's talk is called, soul health or whatever it is. And the fact of the matter is that if we want a healthy soul, we got to be in touch. And we need to let it be in touch with us, and we're in touch with it. This idea, we know how powerful affirmations are. We know how powerful chants are. It has to be part of our spiritual practice. During the fire the last couple of years, I can't tell you how many times, driving from Las Molinas to Chico to Redding to wherever, to insurance companies, to trailer places, to mini storages, to all over the place. I can't tell you how many times in my car I shut off my radio and I sat there I would say, "It is well," and I do my little round. "It is well with your soul, with your soul. It is well with my soul." Because my job was to carry it to term and to deliver. That's creation. Every one of us has an igloo in our life somewhere that is precarious and feels like, am I going to make it? Right to the end. The last igloo we're in is that one before we leave this world. And our teaching says we have got to I pulled up a piece here. I pulled up a piece this week from most of this is Ernest Holmes, who says, "We are well advised to access the higher realms of consciousness, that of the soul, recognizing its own I amness." Someone going to pass away? It's your I amness, man. House burns down, it's your I amness. You're going to change careers, it's your I amness. You're going to go to Oregon, it's your I amness. Got to do that. Got to grab a hold of that. A reminder that we are so much more than what appears. So I'm going to leave you with a reading. This is mostly from Ernest Holmes. He says, "The soul needs a material vehicle, else it would not have evolved one. Us, the igloo. Great mystics have acknowledged the reality of individuality and have all agreed that the soul is on the path of experience, of self-discovery, of evolution, on the way to its enlightened understanding of its marvelous relationship with spirit, with all, a union that cannot be broken." Kathy Ann Lewis says, we should be the cheerleader of the soul. That our songs, our chants, our affirmations, everything, we should be a cheerleader of the soul. And she had us in the week where, and this has been done in different ways, I know, for psychological things and stuff. We got in two lines of people. We had to come up with, okay, what is right in front of you that's scaring you? What are you going into? What don't you think you can handle? And the people in the room that you've been in that room with for most of a week have gotten to know you. They know your strengths. They know your weaknesses. They know your tears. They know your fears, because Kathy Ann Lewis, she just poked and prodded and opened us up and whatever. It was all out there. And we walked through with our eyes closed. We tied a bandana around our eyes. And as we went through, each individual of the class came up and whispered in our ear what our soul needed to hear, what we needed to hear. Go on, my beloved. Go on. Because you are more than this fragile expression. And you've been more for a long time. So sing the song of the soul. All right. Namaste. So, Alan,
all right,
it's yours.
All right. Before the service, somebody asked me why I never mentioned my band.